Let's welcome on stage Mr. John Omo, Secretary General, African Telecommunications Union, Christina Bwetti, Counselor on AI-Powered Virtual Worlds and Smart Sustainable Cities, ITU, Dr. Linda Qasim, Digital and Public Policy Consultant and International Trade Lawyer, Dr. Ammar Hamadian, Head of Strategic Partnerships, Salience Consulting, and the panel, of course, will be moderated by the lovely Ms. Christine Ziadeh, Group Director of Content, Telecom Review Group. Let's give them all a round of applause, please.
Welcome, everyone, to Day 2 of Telecom Review Leaders Summit. We're so glad to have you here today. Our esteemed panelists, as Hadi introduced, will talk about how the regulations will shape the future of AI. So I will start with the ladies first. Sorry, gentlemen. Christina, my first question will be addressed to you. With the emergence and wider development of AI use cases, many countries drafted laws and guidelines to regulate it. What is the importance of such a step?
Good morning, and thank you so much for the questions. I think that we had already heard brilliantly by the previous speaker how important it is for countries, especially to take steps. I think that it struck me, one of the part of the speech before where His Excellency mentioned that regulators have to be seen as the architects of the future. And I think it's really the way on how, especially countries have to look at AI and see how that responsibility has to be taken, in a sense that regulation has to accompany innovation, and that provides also that safety environment where definitely innovation can thrive, but also with the necessary guardrails, which will allow definitely to have AI as an equalizer and as an agent of change, rather than AI as a technology that will divide. So drafting regulation is part of what many countries now more and more are embracing, because they realize that now more than ever they have seen that AI is definitely changing the way how now countries govern, changing the way on how education is being provided, changing the way even on how people live. So that makes their role so important in ensuring that having a solid base where their values are also part on how AI is shaped. Let us remember that for AI, it is extremely important to make sure that it learns and takes into consideration the values, the traditions of every country, which is very different from one country to another. And that's why it becomes key for every country also to have the necessary regulatory framework and the necessary AI national strategy. So that's really definitely probably now more than ever a necessary step for every country in the world. And we're seeing that now more and more countries are taking steps actually to draft their national laws.
Of course. Dr. Linda, from a legal point of view, in the Middle East and internationally, what do you think about the importance of AI regulations?
Yeah, thank you, Christine, for the question, and thank you for having me here with such distinguished panelists. First of all, we regulate AI for the same reason we regulate any technology, any new technology or transformative technology, to ensure legal coherence, societal safety, economic confidence, and the human-centric innovation. AI today is not a simple tool that has been created in any system. Basically, it impacts the lives, our lives, and it impacts as well the responsibilities of contractors, of parties, whatever, and decision making. And I recall that His Excellency mentioned that we want to purpose drive our decisions. It also utters contractual balances, as I mentioned, and influence rights, and shifts the accountability in accountability structure. AI has existed like 30 years, 40 years back. However, what have changed now is that now AI reached the end user. That's why now we started talking about AI and regulating AI with the impact that it has. Regulation is therefore not about limiting innovation, it's about protecting the groups who are using the AI, protecting the cases that might be affected, building the trust, and enabling the responsible development for the future.
Mr. Omo, from your point of view as the Secretary General of the ATU, how important are AI regulations now, especially in the African continent?
Thank you very much for the question, and thanks to certainly Dubai, TDRA. Thanks for having us here and Telecom. The importance of AI regulations comes from a variety of reasons. One, the social element in terms of our ethics, our standards as human beings. There are things that you want to see progress in our society. There are things you want to suppress. Issues such as discrimination, issues such as profiling people negatively, issues such as race relations and such like things. You want to suppress such things, and you want to see a lot more of things that make a society progress. Now, in terms of the actual content of what goes into this, you want to see a lot more of positive attributes being seen. And for us in Africa, there's one thing that I see. This technology is fairly new, and there are a number of governments that are coming up with frameworks for AI governance. The frameworks are good, but the bit about the institutional framework, the human capacity for understanding and also enforcing the rules that we seek to have is a bit lacking. And so there's the need to ensure that even as we develop rules and regulations, we also skill people. We create the necessary expertise that will get into how do we then enforce, how do we activate the systems that we want to see, how do we see that the frameworks that are built into AI systems can be realized in a meaningful way, and that comes with skill sets that sometimes are still lacking. The institutional framework, we see a number of organizations, countries in Africa developing these regulations, but the institutional framework to enforce it is still a bit of a challenge, and we'd like to see a lot more of that coming to fore.
Dr. Ammar, your point of view, please, on this topic.
Thank you, Christine. I think regulating AI is not about stifling the growth of AI. Rather, it's important in increasing the adoption, increasing the trustworthiness, and the confidence of end users. Also, regulating AI is an excellent way of ensuring investors to get into this technology and invest in specific countries. So the main pillars that stand out for me in AI regulations is increasing trust and thereby increasing adoption in a meaningful and the right way, and ensuring that risks that come with AI are managed properly, as well as stimulating economic activities and competitiveness. Last but not least, I think there should be the right model of collaboration, cross-sectoral collaboration when it comes to AI. My colleagues mentioned health, education, transport. All of these sectors are affected by AI. Now, these policies sectoral policies and regulations have to be harmonized not in countries, but across borders. I think what I call for is policy harmonization between at least neighboring countries as pilots to make sure that users are comfortably using and ensured safety of their engagement with AI. And this is where, as an international consulting company at Salience Consulting, we bridge the gap between different regions and different technologies, policies, and regulations.
So this actually leads to my next question. So now we know the main components of AI regulations and law should include trust, maybe digital inclusion, maybe identity, all of these elements that you have mentioned. Yeah. Dr. Ammar, I will also address this question to you and then take it forward to the rest. You were talking about what Salience was doing. So if each one of you can tell me how your organization or your country is actually contributing to the establishment of AI laws and regulations.
So at Salience Consulting, we have a long track record of regulatory, economic, and technology advisory. We work across multiple regions of the world in telecom regulations, e-commerce regulations, fintech regulations, and now we're increasingly getting into advising our clients on the right way of adopting, bridging the gap between solutions and regulations, making sure that we have the right guardrails for AI adoption, because what we want to see is an inclusive AI ecosystem. I think AI should be designed with inclusivity, trust, safety, and ethics at the heart of every solution. And this is where we help our clients with to make sure that they adopt the right technology, they are compliant with local and regional regulations, and we give a lot of learnings and lessons learned from other regions and other countries to our specific client geographies. So I invite everyone to come and talk to us. We're just outside here to see how we can collaborate in mitigating the risks for AI adoption and increasing your competitiveness in that domain.
Mr. Omo.
Thank you very much. So our role as the African Union can be seen essentially in two facets. One is internal within Africa, and so we provide leadership and advocacy in terms of working with governments and the private sector in Africa in terms of AI adoption and skill sets in terms of frameworks, appropriate frameworks that Africa should adopt going forward into AI. So capacity building, working with governments on harmonization, adoption and harmonization of standards across the continent so that we see Africa as much as possible as one region in terms of AI deployment. The second bit of this is international policy making or diplomacy for that matter. And so the African Union does work with partners globally in terms of negotiations, in terms of AI policies and standards globally that are appropriate for the continent. And so within Africa, we work at the level of both policy, regulation, and adoption of standards by our regulators on AI, and globally then on global ICT diplomacy in terms of deployment of AI. Let me just say one last thing about the last one. That for me has been very challenging, the global bit, because of the nuances of geopolitics. Yeah. And I think we need to bring this increasingly to the fore in our dialogue and discussions. Increasingly, it's becoming a lot more difficult to get agreed, standards, of course, because of the geopolitics that are involved. Generally, if I agree or adopt your standards, basically, then you're trading with me on the basis of your terms. And we need to see AI as a standard that, based on whose standard is adopted, based on whose framework is adopted, then that gives that other person an advantage. And so we must localize the standards that we agree on, the standards that we want to see in our frameworks to what we really need as a country, as a region. And that has been quite a challenge, especially for the global south, I must admit, because of the nature of geopolitics that is involved in this business. Thank you very much.
I think this is what has been delaying actually some regions or countries to adopt AI regulations, or maybe they have been hesitant to do so compared to other regions.
Yeah, I think you want to see the delay sometimes as deliberate, sometimes as also something that we need to introspect on as the global south especially. Deliberate in terms of the more I keep you in the dark. It's like growing mushrooms. I don't know whether any of you is a mushroom farmer here. The idea of growing mushrooms is keep them in the dark and give them manure. Keep them in the dark, but give them manure. So we are kept busy. We are kept, in, Saif will tell you, long drawn up to morning negotiations.
Yeah.
At the end of it, when you look back, what have I come out with? And so delay as much as possible the adoption of standards. Of course, we are not looking for the least common of standards. We are aspiring to get the best of standards that we can get, but what is suitable to UAE should be determined by the Emiratis, not somebody coming from outside to determine for us here what we think is ideal for us. Thank you very much.
How is now the ITU working towards the AI regulations and laws? What are the main activities in this area?
Well, the ITU is the United Nations Specialized Agency for Digital Technologies. So we don't draft the AI regulation. That is something that is left with countries, but definitely we help them, we assist them, and we provide them also with support when needed in terms of shaping the AI policies. We also, as an international standards developing organization, develop international standards. So look at standards as the quiet heroes of digital progress. You need to have strong foundation. So if you look at good AI regulation as good engineering, you just need to have strong foundations, flexible design, and then the necessary safeguards, which allow the technology to adapt, when it changes. So that's really the environment that you want to build, and that's what ITU does, in a sense, working also with, of course, important key regional organizations like the ATU when it comes to African countries, and definitely having the necessary capacity building that now more than ever is needed, because you need to build the necessary institutional capacity in countries so that they can also draft the regulations and national strategies that fits their needs. So I think that really helps. In addition, ITU hosts regularly, annually, the AI for Good Global Summit, which is really a great gathering, allowing different, actually, stakeholders from policymakers to industry to academia to come together and discuss and give them the opportunity, really, a look at the AI for development. So while you see AI as an engine of progress, and what are also the necessary challenges that needs to be overcome. So that's, in a sense, the role that ITU has been playing. The ITU membership, which comprises over 194 member states and over 1,000 industry members and academia, came together for the first time actually in New Delhi in October 2004 and actually approved a resolution specifically on AI. And once again, reinforced this commitment actually just a few weeks ago in Baku with a new resolution on AI for development. So that's certainly a strong commitment that comes from our membership to have the ITU playing a key role in this area.
Very good. Dr. Linda, if you can tell us more about some of the activities you're participating in related to AI regulations and laws.
Yeah, in principle, regarding the activities, it's basically related to drafting policies. I participated in drafting the AI policy in Qatar. However, I would like to share the approach for drafting tech regulations in general. Well, the AI regulation, when we talk about regulation here, we mean it's either law or regulation or a policy or a standard. And this depends on the type of regulation that the country wants to, and the approach of drafting that the country wants to adopt. First of all, I would like to talk about the legal coherence. So basically, all digital laws should have what we call legal coherence. The UNICITRAL, the United Nations Conference on International Trade, has adopted model laws on e-signature, on e-commerce, on even e-arbitration, etc. However, the main part that is remarkable is that the three main essential principles in drafting tech regulations. First of all is the functional equivalence. Second of all is the technology neutrality. So however the technology changes, to ensure predictability for investors, for population, and for the economy, this should be technology neutral. That's the main important thing for a regulation. Besides, I spoke about the predictability and the legal certainty that even attracts investors. The more you have a lenient regulation that has a legal certainty in a country, the more you have more investors to come and invest in the country. For instance, the question that we can ask, how do we design a machine that performs a task in a place or in support of a human? So basically, this is the legal concept of AI when we talk about it. The regulatory approaches when it comes to AI and technology, digital laws, in general, it varies between soft laws to hard laws. When we talk about soft laws or soft regulations, here we are talking about the regulated by industry, where the industry starts to implement the standards, and then the country comes, or the regulator comes and adopts such standards and put them in under the chapeau of the regulator. And here, the second one, which is the hard, and I would say here the EU model, the EU AI Act, which is applicable across the European Union, and the Italy law that has been issued in October. It's a very recent law. They are considered kind of hard regulation, because it regulates strictly, and this doesn't give that much for the market to evolve. One more thing that I want to mention is the regulatory sandboxing is what the countries can use, where they test in the regulatory sandboxing, they test the regulation before adoption on a specific group, and afterwards they specify the scope, the objective, and how the environment was enabling for businesses. And I believe this is the ultimate approach that countries should adopt when it comes to tech regulations.
Okay. So, Dr. Ammar, speaking about testing and having the enabling environment, do you think AI regulations have somehow limited the scope of its application? And how did it impact the telecoms industry?
No, I think AI regulations is a very good step forward for many sectors. But the question is, how do we ensure effective AI regulations? And this is the fundamental part that we all have to collaborate and answer. I think if we design technology neutral, risk-based, inclusive regulations, I think we are in the right direction. As I said earlier, at Salience Consulting, we have world-class experts in regulatory and policy affairs, where we bring in learnings from the EU, from the African continent, and advise our clients accordingly in a way that to ensure that they have the right risk-based classification systems for data, that data is actually aligned with the national priorities, national cybersecurity laws, national even cultural norms, because it needs to be adaptable to the specific context. We also call for AI regulations that actually ensure transparency and explainability. Because as an end user, I need to understand the technology. I need to make sure that my service providers are providing AI services in a transparent and ethical manner and responsible manner. And also making sure that the AI regulations ensure data governance and quality. Because there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation that is going on in AI, the AI ecosystem. And lastly, AI regulations need to ensure the right governance and accountability measures. And these, we can look at generalized regulations from around the world, but for accountability and audits, these need to be localized. And we have to, strike the right balance between national security priorities, societal priorities, commercial priorities, and as I said earlier, the right regulations will increase market competitiveness, attract more investments, and increased adoption. So it's all about striking the right policy balance here.
Yeah.
Let me just add one thing, Madam. I think the key thing is whether we understand what we want to regulate. Do we understand it? And that comes with developing the necessary skills. As I mentioned earlier, this technology is fresh from the oven. And there are aspects of it that we're just getting to internalize. And so what Madam said in terms of light touch regulation sometimes becomes very necessary so that we are able to test, but test in a sandbox so that it doesn't leave the sandbox and affect many people. And so the opportunity that we have is to seek to understand what we are regulating. If it's not sufficiently understood, do it within the context of a sandbox where you can test issues, and once you are sure that it is good for the general public, then you can let it out.
Christina, what do you think?
Well, I think that it's really a bit of a mixed in looking at. AI needs to be seen, as the Secretary General said before, in the national context. It's not really something that you can simply say, here it is, 1, 2, 3, it works for all. And that's why, I think that's the struggle why at the international level now it's so important also to agree on some shared principles. So that becomes really key. Having at least a series of shared principles which brings everyone together, but then allowing the necessary flexibility to apply it at the national context. And in that sense, I think that it becomes so key to make sure that there is a sort of, if I can say, regulatory based model that it can be followed to make sure that when you have clarity, then it's easier for innovation to thrive. You don't have chaos. It's easier for the ICT industry to invest because they know what they're going to face. They know the context where they will be operating. But also principles that were mentioned as key, like accountability, like safety, trust, ethics, are so key, but they have also to be tailored in a way that the national context is respective. And that is so important because you need really to make sure that AI algorithms are trained in a way to know the local values. To make sure, even a basic concept of fairness as a different explanation from a country to country. And that is something that must be respected and understood and valued because that's really the tradition of that country. So that's why, for example, at the ITU, we provide this global platform where countries, they can come, they can discuss, they can also work together to make sure that they are able actually to draft some shared principles that will bring them together, but also giving them the necessary capacity building that will help them to thrive at the national level. And for us, that becomes something extremely important to consider, the national context, the fact that AI really needs to be seen as an engine of progress.
Dr. Linda, what do you think? Are AI regulations actually hampering the telecom sector's progress, or?
I would say it's not mature yet. The regulations, even at the international level and at the national level, it's not mature enough in order to say that let's go with a regulation for the AI. I believe that what we regulate or what we have to regulate is the function itself of the AI. So what's the AI is going to serve? When it comes to the telecom sector, first of all, the advice is to listen to the telecom sector. And 2 days ago, I was attending the Global Summit on Digital Platforms and Digital Trade and Digital Platforms, organized here in UAE under the patronage of the Ministry of Economy and Tourism. And what was remarkable is that the minister mentioned that we co-draft. Now we are in a phase we co-draft with the industry. This is very important because basically the law should serve the users. So this is the approach that is really should be adopted. So first of all, listen to the telecom sector. Second, understand how AI is deployed in networks, customer care, cyber security, and data analytics. Also define the objective of the law and ensure that compliance is feasible through standards, documentation, and sandboxes. So this is, I believe that this is the approach because we are not yet there. We don't have laws. We only have the AI Act of Europe and the AI law of Italy. Other than that, there are like policies that are not even enforceable across government entities, and there are some standards and that are applicable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that leads us back to what Christina was saying about finding a shared policy and common ground between all the regions. So to wrap up our discussion, one final message or a conclusion from each one of you, please. I'll start with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think basically my summary is let's try to understand. Let's try to understand what we are regulating. The technology is new, so there may be certain of those things that we still don't grasp fully. And to that extent, we can lay certain basic principles of human rights, respect, principles of non-discrimination, principles of sufficient information in terms of impact assessment, of the likelihood of the impact of any of any proposal that we have on board. And based on that, then we have, light touch regulation, especially for issues that we still don't fully grasp. Let's agree on certain basic principles, and then light touch regulation through the sandboxing system. Thank you very much.
Christina?
Well, I think my call is more really to work together to ensure that we can all come together and have a set of shared principles that can be then taken forward at the national level, at the city level. Let's not forget that there will be also an extra layer to be addressed also at the city level. And then let us make sure that the regulation is a step forward when especially it is done thoughtfully. So when it is done really to create the necessary environment that can drive innovation, so balancing the need actually to protect citizens with, of course, the needs for technology to expand. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ammar?
Yes, just to add, I think if there is one key message that I'd like to reiterate here is we have to ensure responsible AI by design, whether it's for software companies, for telecom operators. And when I say responsible AI by design, we need to be mindful of the customer base that we serve. And this will ultimately result in reduced compliance cost because end users and citizens will eventually become aware of their rights in the AI era, and making sure that we proactively design ethical and responsible AI solutions will reduce that friction between citizens and service providers.
Thank you. Dr. Linda?
What I would say, AI regulation is not about slowing down innovation. So basically, we have to look at the functionality, to know what are we going to regulate. Is it about designing a safe, predictable, and a human-centric future? What is it about? Basically, it is about a safe, human-centric, and predictable digital future, aligning with international standards and laws, the basics of the UNICITRAL in drafting technology, defining the scope and what's the objective and the functionality, and based of this, design it with the industry.
With that, we wrap up this panel. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Christine.